"That can't be her," I whispered the moment she walked into the cafe, because the woman standing near the entrance looked nothing like the person I had imagined from our messages. She wasn't just beautiful. There was something in the quiet confidence of her expression that made the entire room disappear. I had come expecting an awkward blind date I would probably never repeat, but within seconds, I realized I was looking at someone who might completely change my life. For the past 2 years, I had convinced myself that love simply wasn't meant for me. After losing my job, watching friendships fade, and coming out of a relationship that left me afraid to trust anyone again, I had built a comfortable life around being alone. My small apartment was always quiet, my weekends were predictable, and I had stopped expecting surprises. Then my younger sister convinced me to try a blind date. She said I had become too comfortable hiding behind disappointment, and that sometimes the person we need arrives when we have stopped looking. Reluctantly, I agreed. Her name was Emily. We had exchanged messages for nearly a week, but neither of us had shared photographs. She told me she preferred getting to know someone through conversation rather than appearance. I liked that idea, although secretly I was terrified. I arrived at the cafe early, sat near the window, and watched people walk past while wondering how quickly I could leave without being rude. My hands were cold despite the warm afternoon, and I kept checking my phone. Then the door opened. Emily stepped inside wearing a simple navy blue dress beneath a light gray coat. Her brown hair fell naturally around her shoulders, and she carried a small handbag in one hand. She paused near the entrance, looking around as though searching for someone. When our eyes met, she smiled. That smile reached me before she even walked across the room. I suddenly understood why people said some moments felt strangely familiar, as though your heart recognized something before your mind could explain it. We spent nearly 3 hours talking. What surprised me most was how easily conversation flowed. She wasn't interested in impressing me. She asked about my failures, my dreams, my family, and the things I had stopped believing were possible. I told her about losing my job and how embarrassed I had felt asking friends for help. She listened without interrupting. When I admitted that I had started believing I was becoming invisible to the world, her expression softened, and she told me that being overlooked didn't mean being worthless. That sentence stayed with me long after the date ended. Over the next few weeks, Emily and I became inseparable. We walked through quiet parks, shared inexpensive meals, and sometimes sat in the car talking until midnight. She never judged me for what I didn't have. In fact, she seemed more interested in what I could give emotionally than what I could provide financially. Slowly, I began rebuilding the parts of myself I had abandoned. But there was something about Emily that I couldn't understand. She sometimes became unusually quiet when we passed certain buildings. She avoided discussing her previous relationship, and she always seemed uncomfortable when I asked about her family. I respected her privacy, but a small part of me wondered whether she was hiding something important. One rainy evening, everything changed. Emily called me and asked if we could meet immediately. Her voice sounded different. When I arrived, she was sitting alone on a bench beneath the shelter of a closed bookstore. She looked exhausted. After a long silence, she finally told me the truth. The person I had fallen for had been carrying a secret that she was terrified would change the way I saw her. Emily had gradually been losing her eyesight because of a serious eye condition. Doctors had warned her that her vision could continue declining, and she had been struggling emotionally with the possibility of a future in which she might not see the people she loved. I was stunned, not because her condition changed how I felt about her, but because I realized how much courage it had taken for her to let me get close without knowing whether I would stay. She told me she had almost canceled our first date. She had been afraid that once I met her, I would see her differently. She had spent years pretending she was stronger than she felt, smiling when she was frightened and acting independent when she desperately needed someone to understand. I took her hand and told her that the woman who walked into that cafe was still the same woman sitting beside me now. Her eyesight might change, but everything I had fallen in love with, her kindness, humor, patience, courage, and heart, was still there. For the first time, Emily cried in front of me.